not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it is Tuesday. Yesterday was a wild day, and we've got CPI tomorrow. So the flows are going to be really interesting because on one hand, we are going to be waiting on some fundamental data. And on the other hand, there's probably a lot of technical trading going on because yesterday was so crazy. So let's come and look at the charts, show you what I mean. So here we are on the treasuries. We had a gap up over the weekend and then jump up after a violence erupted in the Middle East. In the overnight session, we have retraced a good portion of the up move that we had during the regular session yesterday, but the open so far has been to the upside as well. So because we've been on such a strong downtrend, this kind of a reversal sort of a pattern is going to pick up a lot of like momentum traders trying to go long. And there's been a lot of people such as JP Morgan, etc., that for a while have been saying that like the yields are too high. So technical trading long, and that's probably also why you're seeing that buying here on the open. But where the flows go from here is anybody's guess. The liquidity is back, so we could get some good trade today. Here's the S&P 500. They moved up in the end yesterday. Oil still holding the gains that it had from the weekend, but not really extending them too much yet. Gold and silver also elevated. Copper coming down. Now, this is interesting because the talk in China is more stimulus incoming. The talk is more stimulus coming, but we're down. So, And then over here, Bitcoin, yeah, still going sideways. Sorry, I don't know why it doesn't, when it goes big, it doesn't go to the right spot. Anyways, and then here we've got the dollar actually lower. The dollar actually lower. So, well, you know, I would think that this would be like a full risk-off move, and everything definitely moved in accordance with a risk-off move, except for the dollar. So that's curious. All right, so we don't have any big economic numbers today. Well, we have like what wholesale inventories, but that's usually not a very big one. We have 6 and 3 month bill issuance. We also have a couple of Fed speakers. So at the top of the hour, we'll have Hurley, and around the market open, we have Bostic. So that's where we're at. I think that we need to be on the lookout for headlines a lot again today. So the last thing I was seeing, sirens sounding in Tel Aviv and across Israel. Hamas gives residents of the city of Ashkelon in Israel until 5 p.m. local time to leave. That is, what is that? That is in 2.5 hours. Let's see here. The thing that's been going on overnight is like hostages being executed and so forth. Like Israel has been saying that they're not going to do any kind of exchange or anything. Mia Calafia has been fired from Playboy. Well, okay. Yeah, so what I'm seeing here is like Hamas is trying to play the game now, like, oh, they're targeting civilians and so on and so forth. I don't know. I don't know where this is going, but it kind of sounds like that we're gonna see another explosion of events here. Anyways, good morning, Dom Dom, Alan, Gary. It does look like the initial buying that we saw in the treasuries has petered out. I kind of suspect that initial buying may have been like technical. So, interestingly enough, Nassim Taleb. So I have a theory about Nassim Taleb. You ready for this? Okay. He's autistic. Yeah, I know. Big surprise, right? But it seems to me that he has gained a new hyper interest in his cycling, and now all he tweets about is cycling. So, okay. They're churning here. There's an uptick. The level 2 definitely reacted to that, even though the orders aren't coming through yet. Okay, there you go. There's an uptick. They touch 117. Yes, they do. It looks like they'll clear that as well. Oh, there you go. A little bit of a stop run. Some orders going off at 173. It's still pretty tight, though. There was some pushback against that. It does look like they're going to come a tick back down. So we're getting some trends. I kind of getting some signs that they want to buy this up. But the order flow itself not really telling us what's happening. The dollar is moving a little bit there, though. The dollar's moving down, Japanese yen moving up. mean, I wish I really got data on the yuan, but I mean, you definitely had the longs come in there, but it didn't really result. It kind of resulted in more of a stop run, and you're not seeing follow through yet. And probably if we see follow through, it'll be too late, and we'll be like at 367 or something. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to turn the sound back on. I was gonna say, there has been volume both sides up here. I'm not getting strong signs of large meta orders out there in the flows. This looks more like traders chasing the dollar. And yeah, I'm just gonna sit tight here. I'm not completely buying this uptrend. I am biased. Okay, geez. My bias is to the upside here. Okay, well. Interesting. And did the dollar move? No, it did not really. That definitely answers the question on the volume. Can we take it here though? I'm seeing so many headlines come through right now. My news squawk is not necessarily talking, but I'm seeing a lot of, let's see here. Saudi cabinet kingdom exerting all efforts with regional and international partners to prevent escalation of the situation in Gaza and neighboring areas. This looks anxious. Watching it makes me feel anxious. Gary's talking about TLT. Hell no. I'm not going to go and take options positions in TLT. Okay. The dollar is racing back and forth here. You see this? Oh, whoops. So this is the first message from my news clock in a while there, and I didn't have this. I still had the speakers on. So what are we seeing? We are seeing steepening through this move. So this is pretty strong flow, but it seems extremely disorganized. You think that they might pick the dollar as a safe haven trade today? Could be. I'm still a little bit uncertain, and I would dare say perplexed as to why the dollar is actually now pushing towards the 105.5. They were not up yesterday. That is a little bit odd, but maybe the dollar safety trade is going to come in here. If it did, then that would probably really hammer all of these markets, right? Treasury is having their best day since March, Joe Weisenthal points out, quoting story from Bloomberg. It was, the thing that I find interesting about yesterday was that it was not just the, flight to safety from Middle East tensions. There was central bank speakers that said dovish things as well. So, yeah, does that change the fundamental? I'm not sure, because I was kind of a little bit I don't know if this is objectively dovish, if or not that it was. Now I would say it was dovish, but I'm not sure that it's objectively a big deal. Let's say Israeli airstrike kills 2 senior Hamas officials in Gaza, says official. Back to 16. Okay, so 16 is a good spot. Mm-hmm. That's weird. This person in chat is saying that the stream's not working on the Edge browser, and I'm like, people use that? No indication anything's wrong on our side, though. So... a few ticks down. Okay, so I hate this kind of market. You see what it's doing is like there's a lot of anxiety out there, I think. Traders are like expecting stuff to happen, and it is happening, but essentially like it's moving 3 or 4 ticks on little to no volume, possibly from correlations. So you get in a position, you're sitting, you're waiting, and then it goes, and when it goes, you lose so quickly that there's nothing you can do, right? You end up gambling in that situation. So it is not very fertile ground for the kind of trading that I like to do. What do you think about YouTube streamers that continuously trade and push online sim accounts for hundreds of dollars? I'm not sure I understand what you're hinting at here. I think that there are some people that are trying to get as many people as possible to sign up for prop firm funding, whatever you want to call them, kind of things. And I'm just not interested in that. I try to trade my live account. I only take trades when I really feel like I have an edge. I want to work together with the stream to develop edge and you know, find what might give us the advantage that day. I'm not looking to bring people into it, you know, like if you're not trading, you know, maybe you shouldn't start trading, you know. It's really for a very certain type of person. That's the big thing is that trading is just not for everyone. You know, and the person that, you know, stands a chance and it will be interested enough and all of those sorts of things, they find it on their own. I don't need to convince them into it, you know? So move down, immediately followed by a move back up here into the 17 range. I am seeing the dollar kind of pushing lows. So it kind of looks like the pressure in the Japanese yen and so forth is still to the upside, but the flows are still really confusing, let's say. I would, if I had to make a trade, I would bet that it's still to the long side, but it's just incredibly complex, so we don't really have a good read. I mean, I would expect the flows to be long based on one, I think that we're going to get more headlines here, and two, I think some technical trading might get people to go long in the treasuries, but let's see here. Just some confirmations that 2 Hamas leaders were killed. Jeremy Maxfield. Oh, hey, how are you doing? Hmm. When I saw that name, Jeremy Maxfield, I'm like, that sounds familiar, but I don't think I actually know you. They're slowly coming back up there. Not without some resistance, but they're coming. Not that time. Have you watched the stream before? Because I don't recall seeing that name on the stream. I thought, do I know this guy in real life, or like, is he? But I kind of looked and I was like, no, I don't think I know him. Oh, okay. It's stickball. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Sometimes when we get new viewers, because most new viewers are quiet. I think the stream is really intimidating. Should be, but so it usually seems to be the same group of people. which is really quite odd when you think about the amount of turnover that we have in the trading space, supposedly, right? Because most traders are failing out. So it's really, really odd that we have the same group of 30 to 50 traders, like core traders, that are, come through every day and continue to do so. Okay, so now they came back to 16 and now they're failing 16. And is the dollar coming? No, it's not. The Japanese yen is coming back, but not the dollar. Seeing a little bit of a rise in oil here. I guess my new squawk is waiting on the red book number. That is like a relatively significant economic release, but it's kind of like numbers that people already know, so it tends not to be very big market mover. Oh, that's interesting. Fed recently asked a sample of 382 American crypto owners why they own cryptocurrencies. The top reasons: price appreciation and curiosity about the tech. Almost no one mentions remittances, payments, or distrust of banks. Let's reset things right there. The 30-year came back a little bit more that time. I guess that would be in line with the steepening again. Why don't you use Bookmap? Bookmap seems like an okay piece of software, but I think that the most important tool that we have is the DOM, and Jigsaw has the best DOM. I don't really feel that, or let's say, let's use different clarifiers there. I have not seen any evidence that the extra tools that Bookmap gives you actually do anything for you. Okay, so Pearly is speaking now. We got the text of his speech. He is not a Fed board member, but he's like one of the guys that is involved in the market operations. So that's the New York Fed system operators ways. Okay, big order at 15.5 after that downtick. Yeah, ZB is almost to the low. So you can really see, man, I don't know why when I make these charts full screen that they don't go down to the start bar, but whatever. You can see here, just look at the price movement. There's lots of price movement in through here, but then look at the cumulative delta. There's like tons of price movement, cumulative delta flat. So then when we had this move up, almost immediately it starts turning back down. So I'm not quite sure I can explain how I knew or how I figured that out, but I was very much correct to be suspicious of the flows there, because I wasn't seeing like this persistent meta order that was going to take, that was taking things out and, pushing through liquidity. It was kind of like, it was a mess. It was just a big mess. And so I said, no, I don't want to be involved in that. And sure enough, we're basically back to where we started this at. Now, the thing is that there is trade and there's something happening. It's just I can't sort out what it is yet. We just had a pretty big, well, okay, that move may have been the dollar. The dollar came up and then shortly afterwards, the Japanese yen sold. One of the most important things that the order flow can do for you is to keep you out, to, prevent you from taking trades in what is essentially just noise. And I really feel like that's what we got going on right now. Oh, what's this? I missed that comment. Do you support Israel? Generally speaking, yes. I definitely don't support the terrorists, I'll tell you that much. So I'm kind of a little suspicious of this large order at 15.5. So it's been a while now. I think that showed up at like 7:02 or something like that. So it's not pulling, but basically what's happening is it showed up there, and then you watch the flows here, and like nothing's happening. So when I see a big order, one of the first things that I'm thinking about is, well, maybe that is a large trader that is trying to manipulate the market. You put your big offer out there to try and induce people to sell. So you induce people to sell, and then what I would be looking to see to confirm that that's what the case is to see a lot of market orders come in and end up selling, and them get, scooped up by the limit orders, that there be some sort of like iceberg there sneakily, grabbing those buys. But we're not really seeing that yet because there's just like no orders going out. So that 1246 was maybe a little bit of it. But, it having sat here for so long, now that price is offer, no orders have gone off against it yet. But that's another thing is, would if any orders had hit there at 15.5, would that pull, or would there be a collision? Is it reloading? No, I wouldn't necessarily call it that. So what I would say is reloading is like, we tick down and immediately there are people buying back into that new offer, but the offer holds and there's an iceberg behind it. So like we just ticked down and there's like 368 there. And then if people were hitting into 368 and it ended up being like 3,000 contracts and it doesn't go bid again, right? That's reloading, because it's basically somebody with a large iceberg and they bring their iceberg down to that price. Nah, I did not see any volume go off at 15.5 last time it was offer. So last time it was the best offer, no orders went off. It ticked back down. But we've kind of been rotating around 14.5 now for several minutes. So there appears to be some degree of a liquidity hole here. Like I said, the big thing that I'm looking for generally, the ideal trade for me is that there is a large buyer or large seller of some sort that has a ton to buy or sell, and it will take them hours, if not days, for them to execute that order. And so I'm kind of watching the flow for signs of something like that. And I'm just not seeing that. I kind of suspected that we would have some sort of a large meta order going long, because you're going to get like CTAs and other kinds of funds possibly reacting to the huge reversal day that we had yesterday. and the momentum flipping. But that volume just didn't come through, you know? There was a tiny little bit of buying, and then we came back down, and now we're just going sideways here. So that does not support the idea that there's a really large buyer or seller executing out here in the market. Now, right there at 14, this is 1699, 1700 contracts or so. That might be the iceberg. So, that maybe supports the theory that the order at 15.5 is just being placed on there to induce selling so that somebody can get long. What are you talking about, laughter? What was a strange sight? Oh, LOA says makes sense. Well, they're through 14 now. Okay, so look, they got back through 15.5 without any fanfare. So I think that kind of supports that there was somebody looking to get filled long. Now, the caveat to that is he doesn't necessarily know that there's going to be more buying, right? Still slightly skeptical. Look at the dollar get careening down back to their lows, though. Yeah, I didn't see it on my. I have a little market depth tape that will tell me when large orders go off, like stack and pull. But I didn't see any really big ones, and this one will show anything larger than 1,000. So, you know, it was less than 1,000 contracts, so it wasn't enough to show on there. But when we traded through, it didn't take 3,000 contracts to trade 15.5, right? So that strongly suggests that it was indeed a spoofing. I don't want to take a trade purely off of the spoofing, because like you can go and like you can spoof it one way and then spoof it the other way, and I find that you can get screwed both ways, right? But it does kind of help us read the flow there, that maybe that decline there. So if we come back to our chart, we saw it show up basically right here, right? So if prices were artificially depressed because of the spoof, then it shouldn't surprise us to see price come back into this range, right? We'll see. But perhaps the large meta order buy is there, because that move up was a little bit more persistent in the volume. So
Some politicians these days, guys.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says World War III would have a horrible carbon footprint and would cause even more global boiling. That's what you're concerned about, huh? How about like genocide is bad and we don't want millions of people to die? You're concerned about, do you try and twist it into global warming? That's what a joke. Right? I'm sorry. That particular tweet is gonna get a lot of hate, I think. Do you mostly trade ZN? Yes. Well, so I'm actually placing my trades in the micro 10-year. I really like to keep, my size small. I really do. I'm not in it to make millions of dollars. I just love trading and I want to understand the market better. So, I'm totally cool with, making or losing $10 to $50 instead of, a couple $100. Over here, it can be a couple $100 at least. But the order flow, is all in ZN. So that's why I'm watching ZN and I'm placing my trades over here. Oh, is that from, oh, you're right. AOC Press 2, you're right. I'm sorry, guys. I gave you misinformation. Ocasio-Cortez isn't that stupid. I mean, I could totally see her tweeting something like that, but apparently she did not actually tweet that. Wow, they gonna break the high here now? Well, seeing all of these rallies, it's been really weird to watch the evolution of this stuff on social media, because on Sunday, I think it was on Sunday night that I was seeing, stuff about rallies and stuff like pro-Palestinian rallies, and I thought, wow, man, this is crazy. Well, the rest of the public found out that these rallies were going on. Is basically what happened. And people on social media were so upset about it. You had 3 in Florida? That's crazy. But so to me, the big tell that somebody has been successfully propagandized and turned into an NPC per se is the inability to react to changing situations. Because what has happened in Israel here really is a big shift for the world, frankly. And you go and you look at the people on the left and the people that were supporting Palestine before, they don't seem to realize that things have changed. They are not reacting to the actual events. They are just going immediately into their learned routines, right? Get on social media, virtue signal about Palestine, things like this. And it's really, you realize when you see these people talking about, like, for instance, that this is that when they say that Israel is a colonial power and this is decolonialization, okay? What they're saying is that entire land belongs to the Palestinians, that the Israeli state shouldn't exist anymore, and that the land should all be given back to Palestinians. That's what they're saying, essentially, right? So they're fooling people into basically supporting genocide. Okay, that's another one that you will hear is from the river to the sea. That again is all of this land should belong to the Palestinians and all of the Jews should be killed. That's what they're saying. So again, that is a phrase that is like explicitly supporting genocide. And these people, so clueless on the left, like are not paying attention at all and are just repeating this stuff without thinking it through. And it's just like crazy, right? But then the thing is that I think is going on with the rest of the people right now is like, I think the only thing more terrifying than watching genocide happen is turning around and seeing your neighbors supporting it, right? Because if you're going to a rally and supporting Hamas, you're essentially saying that you would be completely willing to kill and rape your neighbors too if it helps your political cause. That's essentially what they're saying, right? Like, we just saw one of the most horrific genocidal acts in history. And these people can't get themselves to condemn it. They can't sit down and say, like, maybe now isn't a good time to, you know. They can't say, oh, you know what, actually this organization is evil, we shouldn't be supporting them. They can't get themselves to do it. There's only two explanations for this. Either one, you're an NPC and you can't see it, or you would do it too. In history, yes, absolutely. I said one of, not the most, but so like people compare it to 9/11, for instance, right? Yeah, I think in many respects this is worse than 9/11, simply because of the personal nature of it, right? 9/11 was like, you know, hijack a plane and go into the plane, and one act that ends up having a large impact. But this was a bunch of crazy people jumping across the border and committing the most personal type of violence on a mass scale. It's horrific. It is, and it is a significant portion of their population too. Now look at that. They come all the way back. So was all of that move back up to the highs? Well, so the thing is, the dollar is still tracking very closely. So I think that they're still just chasing the currencies. But one theory you could have, if it had only been in the treasuries, is to say, yeah, somebody spoofed and it caught a bunch of people offsides, and so then they got squeezed, and once they were all out, price settled back down to here because, well, it's actually a decent amount in cumulative delta short to come back down here, so. Is this a Tuesday in some parts of it? Well, pretty crazy things happen in Africa too, but this is like as awful as it gets, man. Yeah, I think that it's kind of like a common trap to kind of dismiss it as not a big deal. We are talking about what is likely to be a very significant historical event. You know, like, people are going to be talking and studying this 30 years, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's a big deal. How do you explain this? See, I think that the approach that you're getting here is, okay, what happened? How many people died, etc.? What was the severity of it? And then you try and say, okay, on a scale of like how many people died compared to other events, how bad is this particular event? Okay, well, crazy stuff does happen in Africa all of the time. Okay, but I think that that ignores the context of the situation and the historical impact and the world impact that this is about to have, right? Because what has essentially happened is, for the last 30 years, the policy has essentially been, you got people in Gaza, you got people in the West Bank. They left Gaza for a while. Gaza was occupied, right? They left Gaza. They left it to their own devices. They elected Hamas, and they started pushing terrorism. And the strategy has essentially been to just try and deal with it. And of course, that ends up having, a lot of awful things happen from the Israeli side too, because you're trying to defend yourself. You end up bombing. You have to keep the area under blockade to try and reduce the arms coming into that city and all of these sorts of things. And it just kind of makes the situation worse. And so all of this time, there's been this argument that, like, they really should just not be allowing this to happen, because all they're doing is they're biding their time until they can kill you all. But we said, well, the right nice thing to do is to try and manage the situation, right? That policy of the last, like, my whole lifetime, as far back as I've ever seen, was basically outed as an absolute disaster. And so what's happening now? They're going to go in and they're going to ensure that Hamas never has military capability again. Right? So this is a significant shift in the Palestinian-Israeli situation. This is not just another Tuesday in Palestine, right? This is the most significant event to happen over there since Yasser Arafat rejected the deal with Bill Clinton back in 1997, right? And as far as I can see, the two-state solution is dead. At least it's dead for Gaza. Gaza's not. I mean, maybe they let the West Bank. Maybe they still get a deal or something like that. I don't know what the Palestinians will ever give it, because the reality is they don't want a deal that allows the Israelis to still be there. They want the whole thing, and they want to kick the Israelis out. So I don't think that they'll ever take it. But especially for Gaza, the two-state solution is dead. They were pushing for it. It's gone. It's not going to happen. So yeah, this is an extremely significant political event. And there is the possibility, although I think it is as much declined, but there is a possibility of it turning into a wider conflict as well. Big question now should be the $6 billion donation to Iran from Biden. Well, now that whole story is a little interesting, because the Biden administration has basically been blindsided by it. Like, they were basically like, yeah, I mean, typically you would, try to have all of your excuses so that you can survive it politically. But the Biden administration just like completely fumbled that response, because the reality was that they did give Iran billions of dollars, and money is fungible. So like, it makes the Biden administration look bad either way. There's a couple of other things, like they didn't wake him up. That's like the 3 a.m. call. That's the thing that we've been talking about my whole life in every presidential election too, is the 3 a.m. call. Joe Biden, they got the 3 a.m. call and they let him sleep. That's like, what the heck? And then yesterday, they put a cap on it like at noon. So like he was only out there in the press and talking for the morning, and then who knows, did he go back to sleep? Yeah, they lidded him yesterday. That's wild. That's something that you're not going to hear people talk about, but that to me is like a really bad warning sign that the Biden administration is just a complete disaster. I really have a hard time seeing him get reelected. Given the current circumstances, frankly, I have a hard time seeing how they're going to run him again as the nominee. But kind of sounds like they're a little too far on that one to go back on that. Yeah. Oh, it totally is. Yeah, you got to realize that politicians are not people, right? They are organizations. So a person that you see as a politician is just a figurehead that has built a team around him to do things. And he has a speechwriter, and he has a policy guy, and he has an expert on this and an expert on that. And that's what a politician actually is. And so when you get to things like Dianne Feinstein and all of these other people, and they're like, well, these senators are too senile to do anything. All they have to do is say yay or nay on the vote, right? Because it's the staff that's actually making the decisions. But yeah, to my point earlier, I don't think that, normally by this point everybody would have forgotten about the violence in Israel. I think that this is something that's going to dominate the headlines for several weeks. The Congressman Adriano Espilia in New York, he's a friend of mine's uncle. Okay. I tell you what, politicians are so much more fun to interact with before they go into Congress. Because once they're in Congress, then they have to build their system, and it's all this serious stuff. They're so much more interesting before they've won. He says that politicians are just telemarketers. You call a bunch of people up, and I think this is one of those naive things about the way that politics works that a lot of people don't realize, and this is why so many of the solutions that get proposed about how to deal with our political problems just completely miss the mark. Because one way of thinking of it is that this is a democracy, and what people want should be the thing that ends up winning. And we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Exactly because the popular vote ends up being not the best thing in many instances, especially when it comes to, I can vote myself benefits. Well, as soon as people figure that out, they always do whatever will get them the benefits. There's like really nothing you can do about that. But the reality is that there's things that need to happen to run a country. That not everybody has the ability to be watching and keeping track of and everything. And so a lot of how these things are dealt with are personal relationships. You have people, they're friends, they talk, they say, oh, we need to do this. Okay, we do this and we do that. But it's kind of nepotism to some extent. But yeah, the way that stuff in Congress works is you have your buddies and you're constantly spending time calling different people and saying, we're going to vote for this or this, and this is what our strategy is, and working those things out between individual people. That's why it's, for instance, one example of where something that people push that kind of misses the mark is term limits. So a lot of people think that the reason why things are the way they are is because those politicians get in there and then they stay in there forever and you can't kick them out. And so they're still boomers and they're doing boomer things. And if we had term limits, then things would be different. No, it wouldn't. Because they vote the way that they do because of all of these relationships and stuff that they have and that they've built up. And if you put somebody new in there, they can't navigate that. It takes them several years to build those relationships and understand what's going on. And so really, actually, all you're doing is just weakening the opposition to this stuff is actually what you're doing. You're making it easier for those people that have that have the money and the power in Washington, because it's easy for them to manipulate a new congressman. It's easy for them to do that. So term limits there probably should be an upper limit on it, or maybe an age cap. But the term limits that I'm always hearing about, which is like 8 years and stuff, no. You want them to be in there for multiple decades if you can. I actually feel, to some extent, that a lot of those kinds of proposals are really ways to distract people from the things that really need to happen. Like the first thing that really needs to happen is congressmen should not be able to own individual stocks, right? They should not be able to own individual stocks or interests in businesses, because that is too big of a conflict of interest. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that congressmen should not be allowed to be lobbyists after they get out. You have to have lobbyists, because it's just not possible for congressmen to understand every issue. They need to have people that have the to come in and personally lobby and educate and provide information, right? But the lobbying industry has accrued so much power, and a large portion of it, as I understand it, and this is what the people in the lobbying industry say, that are like, this is corrupt and we should get rid of it. What they say is that the biggest piece of power they hold is that once the congressman is out of Congress, they can join the lobbying firm, and then they make even more money at the lobbying firm. And they can utilize all of those connections that they made in Congress to do it with, right? So the reform that needs to happen there is that congressmen cannot lobby after being in office. How often do you hear people talk about that? Almost never. Because the things that would actually work, they're never going to talk about on television. So I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, TLA trader, but tomorrow we got CPI, right? So if CPI comes out and CPI is bad, or which is to say higher than anticipated, that's going to be a real gut check for the market, isn't it? Because we just had yields come back really, really hard on Monday, and then they're gonna go right back to the highs. That's gonna cause a lot of turmoil in the market. I mean, you can see it in the tape here today, right? Like, I'm not getting the meta order. I'm just not seeing it. We've moved around and stuff. I suppose that you could have traded this range and everything, but the opportunity just does not appear to be there for me. And yet, you can still see the tension and the anxiety in the tape. Like, it moves very quickly. When it does move, there is quite a bit of like level 2 shuffling around and people placing trades and doing stuff. Like people are active out there because they can see that like we're at a critical point, right? On that note, I haven't seen as many headlines lately. Biden and Harris will meet national security team on Tuesday for the next steps on Israel. Why weren't you having that meeting yesterday? There are some things on this story that feel like they're going surprisingly slow. Well, we are still seeing the signs of the steepener here, aren't we? The 30-year is pushing to new lows. That flow seems pretty persistent. Like, if I take all of the noise out of it and I was only looking at the yield curve flow, I think you would see pretty persistently them buying the 5 and selling the 30. Lots of important accounts. Well, next week you get all the bank earnings, right? So when I come on Twitter and I keep seeing Anthony Crudelli post this Discord invite, and I click on it and it says the invite might have expired or you might not have permission to join. Now I'm kind of starting to wonder if I just don't have permission to join. I've been preemptively banned or something. That would be something else. Yeah, that I'm on the blacklist, right? I tell you what, I thought I talked about the politics a lot, but this is something that confuses me because there seems to be a strong correlation between how popular somebody on Twitter is and how often they talk about the politics. Like Jim Iorio is probably the best example there, right? He talks about politics incessantly. Oh my gosh. And you know, how come those don't hurt him? Oh, is it gonna let me do it this time? I don't know what is wrong with that link, but it... Oh, that's interesting. Okay, it did let me in that time. Now I can see them. It would be interesting to see what they're posting over there. Looks like a bunch of technical analysis nonsense. Not surprised. I don't know what the deal is with that link, because that when I put it into Chrome, so when I open it up in Chrome, then it says, oh, do you want to open it up over here? And then it lets me do it. Like when I open it up in Brave, it says that URL is either expired or you don't have permission, and then they can't do anything. If I copy it and try and put it into Discord directly, nothing happens. If I go into Chrome, I get the same message, but then at the same time, it opens Discord up and lets me in. Weird. Is there something wrong with their link? Is there something wrong with Chrome? I don't know. So look at this the way this played out here in the Treasury. So I want to point something out here that is curious. So we had a flat area here where there was a large offer, and then that offer pulled. We came up, we came back, we came up, we came down. Now we're pushing a little bit lower. But what I also see is there was a cluster here, so a little bit of a like a liquidity hole here. You can see it's still here. And then a little bit lower, but it's still over here as well. So what's actually happening is they're buying it up, and then it comes back, and nothing happens. They buy it up, comes back, nothing happens. Now, when you look at the volume overall, you can see net selling now at this point to the amount of about 15,000 contracts. But that's not a lot, considering like that time period and that long of a time period and everything. To only be 15,000 contracts short is a little bit like meh. So this is why I'm still kind of like not too enthusiastic about taking a trade. Bostic impact of the war in Israel on the economy is uncertain. Financial Times says the Gaza crisis threatens to spill over the border into Egypt. Well, I'm sure that the Gazans are going to be fleeing to Egypt, right? So it looks like the buy is coming back in again. If it follows the pattern, we should like take it short at 17, but I don't know. The flows are to the downside, so Bostic, the Fed needs to be nimble and ready to adapt to risks. Yeah, apparently he's still speaking. I think that this is probably another one of those, like, they're getting to the Q&A portion of it or something. There's still a long way to go to get to the inflation targets. Oh, wow. In Australia, multiple reports of a carload of Arabs hunting for Jews. Bostic says there is no recession in his dot plot. It's already moderating back down before even getting to the 16.5. I just saw a video or a picture from a guy that is volunteering in Israel, helping clear bodies and so forth. He has a picture of a crib with blood all over it. That picture is... Ben Shapiro just reposted it. That one is one of the most impactful photos I've seen so far. Like, if you're looking for, like, a picture that ends up being one of the iconic, that's your best candidate right there. Wow, how awful. Been quite a bit of ticking up and down here in this area. We can't have a recession. There's too much money out there. It sure seems to me like there's still a lot of money out there. Everything that I keep hearing and seeing is like, oh, the consumer is burnt out. Everybody can't take on more debt. They can't, and yet they continue to spend. So, like, the money is apparently there, right? I think the problem is that if we have a quote-unquote recession, it's going to come on really quickly. It'll come on really quickly. That's the thing. So that reminds me of this other thing that's been going on that we haven't talked about. But Rick Santelli on CNBC on Fast Money made the case that interest rates could go as high as 13%. And everything that I'm seeing in reaction to that is everybody saying, that that's a crazy prediction and that there's no way we could get to 7%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the thing that I am seeing when people are arguing about this is I kind of feel like that people are misinterpreting his comments, because number one is I don't think that he was saying it as a prediction. I think that he kind of was trying to make it clear that this was one scenario and it wasn't necessarily the most likely scenario, but that it was a scenario that was like being underpriced, or I think he said something about that this is a scenario that's being underpriced by the market. But the other thing is that he was talking about several years out. So everybody assumes that like he's talking about this cycle, that this cycle we will have a further push higher and rates will be to 13%, and then maybe 13% will be the high of this interest rate cycle. I don't think that that's what he was saying at all. In fact, I think that he was to some extent saying that like, hey, if we get a recession and the Federal Reserve has to reduce our interest rates again, that there's still such a problem with the money in the economy out there that inflation would come roaring back. And so they would have to raise interest rates right back up again very quickly. And once you get into that point, and if the raising rates isn't really having an effect, then you have to just keep raising and raising and raising until you're at 13%. He's right on that account, in my opinion. In my opinion, he's right on that account. So there is a scenario where we could get to 13%, but probably not within this interest rate cycle. That's a really, really big order at 17 there. Kind of right where I would expect the market maker seller's average position to be too, by the way. Palestinians are always playing victim. I find it really frustrating for sure. All of the people online trying to claim that like, well, I think that the new narrative I heard from the left, I find it really weird how they all start saying the same thing at the same time. But I think that they're all just coming to the same conclusions. But they're claiming like, oh, you know, with the way that you treat the Palestinians and everything, like this is inevitable. I find that argument so frustrating, because what do you expect them to do? Just fall over and die? Like, you're talking about a group of people that literally want to genocide. They want to kill all the Jews. Okay, this isn't just like oh, well, if you took your foot off their neck, then they would just, you know, then everything would be hunky-dory. No, it wouldn't. They would just attack Israel harder. And then they turn around and act like the victim. It's so... And the left, I don't think that the left really takes a critical eye to it. I think that they just go, well, they're the underdogs, so they must be the oppressed ones. And like I said before, I'm seeing wide swaths of people being tricked into supporting genocide. It's just nuts. So there's 3,500 in that order, isn't one order, says Octavius, at 17. So I did kind of suspect that they were going to come back up to this 17 area, right? But they actually moved a few ticks lower than I expected first. I don't know if that's a trade I actually want to make. I'm still a little bit nervous about the flows here. Because the next play here would be to go short. Oh, okay. Collision at 17. Collision at 17, 48, 73 contracts traded. They took it. That was already the point of control of the session, by the way, so that could become a stumbling block. The bid is okay there at 17. You know, if they don't get away from that 17 and it trades back and forth a few times, and then you start seeing the market makers not putting the liquidity up there, that we could really get stuck at 17. Oh, yes, of course, we had the wholesale inventories, by the way, which was U.S. wholesale sales month over month 1.8% versus an expected 0.4%. Although I didn't really see a super strong volume in there suggesting one way or the other. Bloomberg just tweeting here about Pearly, talking about, you know, the balance sheet runoff has been running smoothly and everything, just the speech they had earlier. I'm still seeing an okay offer at 17, but the activity has really died out here. Yeah. And there you have it right there. That's your liquidity hole at 17. Now, the other side of that, though, is that the dollar is dropping hard here at the moment. Below 105.5 now. I'm not seeing the Japanese yen move super strongly. I am seeing the euro. The euro is seeing some strength here. Is that going to push the treasuries to highs? Well, to see new highs again after trading back and forth across the range, like what, 4 times now? I think there's going to be some stops. I think I'll put a little gamble in here on Sim on the reload. Okay, so I didn't get reloading at 18.5 like I was anticipating. S&P 500 is turning bullish here, isn't it? This move the dollar's making seems to be really shifting the markets here. This is definitely when the dollar started turning down that the bonds started turning up and the S&P 500 started turning up. Also seeing oil decline a little bit. I'm gonna push my chair so that I am forced to sit up straight here for a little bit, because I feel like I'm slouching a bit too much. Well, I didn't get the reloading or the stop run that I was hoping for there at 18.5. Should I just bail on it, or should I like be stubborn and hold it forever and double down at 16.5? They haven't been able to sustain themselves above this seller's average position today. So maybe we're going to head right back down to the lows again. That's a possibility. Now, at least that's been the pattern today, right? Iceberg 16.5, though. So there is still liquidity hole at 17 for whatever reason. Uptick. Ooh. Micro's really reacted to that one. Okay, they're coming back up and making another pass at the highs. Reloading in the 5-year. And pretty strong looking flow in the 5-year too. Since we are getting flattening here, we might not make as much off of this just because we're on the wrong side of the curve. It would be better to be over here like in the 5 and the 2-year, but okay, can we get some orders off at 19, please? No. Kind of getting an interesting trickle of volume through here now, but not enough to push the high. Getting some clicks in the E-mini. rates not being in a favorable trade today. It's doing some weird stuff in it. It's definitely not the typical trade. The treasuries, usually the way that they go is there's an imbalance and it's choppy and very efficient and everything, but ultimately the flow is one direction. And if you're in line taking a position in the correct direction, you do well. And that's all there is to it, right? But today has been much more mixed than usual, even though we have seen some pretty significant amounts of volume. So there isn't a clear imbalance today. There's trades both ways, essentially. Yeah. I mean, I can't say for sure that there's not those large meta orders out there. Maybe the large meta orders are out there and this back and forth is just them negotiating. But there's not a clear trend today. There's definitely not. And I see a lot of shenanigans type of stuff. Yeah. There was a spoof at one point. Another thing that's happening that is curious to me is like breaches of the highs are kind of like ignored, right? I guess this is just the regular session high. You're not getting to like clear stop out levels until we're above 20. Above 20, you might start to see that kind of stop out behavior that we would like to see here. Well, that uptick sure looks strong, and we did have a few orders hit 19.5, but just as an example there, okay, 6 orders went off at 19.5. So if there was anybody with stops placed at 19.5, they would have gone off, right? They did not. Only 6 orders there, right? So the stops aren't there yet, but maybe they're at 20, 20.5, 21, etc., etc. Day 2 of asking Seth how to get rich. Wait, did you ask me how to get rich yesterday? I'm a site reliability engineer. I can get rich. Don't be married. Be a site reliability engineer. Save it all in the stock market. That'll make you rich. You know, there's this sentiment I've seen around that I think is very clever and informative, is that most people don't want to be rich. Most people want to spend a lot. They don't want to be rich. So they confuse being rich with spending a lot. The way that you get rich is not by not spending it all and putting it all into appreciating assets, right? What if you can't be an engineer now? Oh, you can always get into the computer industry. There is such a push to get non-college graduates into the computer industry because they just need that many people. So what did you do? Did you go to school? What are your current skills? We need to understand what your skill set is so that we can, properly exploit the positives that you have. There we go. And now some orders almost immediately at 20. So there's your stop run. You're just doing business studies? Oh. That's, you can make money doing that. If you're doing Python, that's good. Okay, so my news squawk is just pointing out that this kind of trend that we've been having here did start after the wholesale inventories. I did not see much of a reaction to the wholesale inventories. I don't know if those numbers are actually significant or tell us anything. But the trend has been there. We are now into stops here in ZN, although probably at an okay stopping point. I'll probably have to go for a CFA or something. Well, if you're in school and you're in business and finance, you know, you can totally. So another thing would be which school you go to. So the first thing that I would do is if you're at a university, is like find out which companies actively recruit there. There's likely to be some financial institution that recruits at your school. Okay, by the way, how much in Delta-wise was that move? Well, in ZN, it was only about 5,000 contracts, 6,000 contracts. So it still appears to me that they are tracking the dollar, and the dollar has started to moderate a little bit here. At the same time, it's not showing me anything like reversal. We could certainly still float up here and have more stops. Go for a CFA. Yeah. CFA is definitely one path. It seems like that a lot of the fund managers that's their path is oh, not a CFA. What is it? I don't know. There's so many designations and stuff that you can get in the financial industry. I can't keep track of it all. Saw this guy on TikTok, and his whole shtick was that he will get you into doing Wall Street banking, essentially, and to be a banker, you know, that really competitive spot, and an investment banker, yeah. And he had some good stuff. Like he had said and done things in his videos. I wish I knew the guy's name, but he definitely did it. He definitely did it. So I don't know how good his advice he gives you would be at getting you there, but he's the one that you would want to ask. I wish I could remember the guy's name. Okay, the ZB fell back there a little bit again. The 5-year still is still pushing a little bit, but the volume did turn. It kind of looks like we're still at the mercy of the dollar. So I think I'm feeling a little bit anxious because I feel like I don't have much time left, but then I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's only 8:19. So that move happened fairly quickly, didn't it? For this one over here on the sim trade, I can probably just kind of let that sit for the rest of the day in the hopes that we continue to push higher. Now, I do have something to do here, don't I? What is it? I have a meeting. I have an early meeting today. I see. Well, maybe I should put a profit taking order out here just in case. I need to remind myself, one of the things that will happen to us in this kind of a situation is that we've had so much volatility lately that all of our kind of bearings get out of whack, and we think that moves are going to go much further than they actually do. So that's something I need to be cognizant of. I do think that I could maybe get 15 to 20 on this if I was able to hold it long enough, but if I've got a meeting here, I think I should try and take it if I do. Oh man, they're gonna come all the way back. Boo. Boo. They saw me put my order out there. They're like, well, no, we can't do it. Treasuries. So Forex Live says treasuries catch a fresh bid, weakening the dollar. They think it's the treasuries driving it. That's odd. Well, it is the 5-year. The 5-year has been pushing. Getting a little bit of volatility. I feel like that the micros are overreacting here. S&P 500 just had a huge reload at 43.95. $10,000 contracts over there. That's kind of interesting that... Let's read Forex Live's story here. Aside from all the geopolitical risk, yesterday's trading was fraught because the bond market was closed for a minor U.S. holiday. That created an odd liquidity profile and uncertain market signals. When fixed income trading reopened in Asia, yields plunged but had been creeping back up since. Now that we're back to peak U.S. liquidity, there is some buying in bonds again, and U.S. 10-year yields have fallen to 4.67% from 4.71%. The market isn't just digesting the Middle East either. The Fed's Logan yesterday indicated that the rise in long-dated yields means the Fed won't have to do as much. That dovish commentary is bond positive and dollar negative. It's all going to take some time to sort out, but the latest move in bonds is weakening the dollar broadly and has pushed Euro USD back too close to the highs of the day. Well, I'm a little skeptical. I do not see the volume in the treasuries. It's just a typical day over here. 10,000 contract move. I didn't answer your question. What was your question? I didn't answer your question. Which question? I think I did, and maybe you didn't hear me. If anything, the market is less volatile and more liquid. It is more liquid today, and it is less volatile than yesterday. Sure, yes, I do. Obviously, we don't support every little thing. So I really hate it when you have to attach yourself to another entity, because then that other entity might do something that you don't like, right? But I think broadly speaking, I support Israel, even though I don't agree with every decision that I make. And I admit that there have been things that soldiers and individuals on the Israeli side have done that were bad. But I tell you, I definitely don't support Hamas. Okay. I definitely don't support Hamas. At this point, anybody that openly supports Hamas I'm like, you can't trust that person. You can't trust that person. That's the person that you put on your list that is, like if there's a communist revolution, they're going to come for you, sort of a thing. You watch those people. Okay, so I got filled. Good deal. I really would like to try and hold that a little bit longer. Took it off at what, 70? See, I kind of think that I could get 665, if not 66. I'm definitely not going to take 666 though. No, but nobody trades 666. Whoever did the 5 contracts there, that was bad. That was a bad move, okay? If I wasn't leaving in 5 minutes, I think I would probably try and hold it for longer. Because this is starting to get some of the hallmarks of a multi-legged order, yeah? So we had a lot of chaos through here, like the cumulative delta fell. Then we got this. Now, the delta back up wasn't too much. That's why I'm a little bit like, Okay. But it is coming in the 5 years. What's really happening is we're just getting really extreme spreading, and so I think that's why the volume isn't so great in the 10 year. But this does have, I think, the markings. Well, look, as I've been talking, we're already up another 3 ticks. This kind of has the mark of, well, I think that it actually will come back there for a little bit. I would like to see it make its next move a little bit, 45 minutes and then go here. But it's kind of got that classic pattern. The other markets seem to be reacting to it. I think that there's going to be another leg. Whoever it is that's openly supporting Hamas is either intellectually dishonest, intellectually impaired, or downright evil. I was saying it's 2 things. One is there are some people that have just been programmed and they think that this is just the typical thing. When there's violence in Israel, what do? We all go virtuous signal that we support Palestine instead. That's what the Democrats do. They don't realize that the event that we saw over the weekend kind of changes the story. The other side of it, though, is some of these people have no problem with that kind of violence. It really is. I know it seems shocking. I know that what I'm saying seems like, nah, these people are just stupid. There's no way that any of these people would be okay with, raping and murdering children and stuff like that, right? But the reality is that this stuff is built into people. Okay. In ancient history, the humans that survived were not the smartest humans or the best humans or the most moral humans. They were the most brutal ones. Genocide is something that is like a part of your genetic code, frankly. And people have a tendency to slip into it. They do. So I was saying, the scary thing for us is it's scary to see outright genocide being perpetrated in the Middle East, but the only thing more scary is realizing that there are people that live around you that would participate in such things given the right circumstances. And they're absolutely here in America, guys. There absolutely are. And if I were you, I would take a good look at your Facebook feeds and whatnot and see the people that are outright supporting Hamas, and I would never trust that person. Would never trust that person. Okay, so they made a little bit more of a move. It looks like theirs would have been my 15. Yeah. Just a little casual genocide. No big deal. I wish that this wasn't the world, but it is. And it probably always will be, frankly. Okay, guys. I have a meeting, so I'm going to get going. I'm a little bummed that I only got 10 out of that, because it did seem like it was a pretty good trade. But, it's okay. It was a good trade for what it was. It was a good trade for what it was. And the reason why I'm feeling like that is because we just had like 2 days where they moved 15 basis points. So, a 1 basis point move for me is like, that's standard. That's what we should be getting. It's fine. Okay. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't spend too much time watching videos on Twitter today, eh? Stay excellent, team.